Right. If you, like me, have been watching women's football since 2011, then you would have realised the growth that women's had, which is good for the game. But at the same time, there is a glaring issue. Like, look at the Cups, for instance. Like, it's been dominated by Chelsea and Manchester City, with Manchester United winning their first piece of silverware last season and Arsenal winning silverware here and there. Like, there is a glaring issue with women's football. I mean, for instance, just have a look at the FA Cup draws for the quarterfinals this season. Just have a look at it, which I'll show you right here. Now, if you could see something that's so obvious as keeping the top four teams apart for the quarterfinals, then I welcome you to my ship. This is a glaring issue with women's football. And I understand that organisers want to make women's football as big as possible, but keeping apart Chelsea, United, Arsenal, and Man City for the quarterfinals, it's ridiculous. And you've given them all home ties as well. Like, in the men's FA Cup, we say magic of the FA Cup, where lower sides defeat bigger sides, like, say, Plymouth defeating Liverpool. But in the women's game, there's just no such thing as magic of the cup, because it's just dominated by the same few sides every season. And this doesn't just go for the FA Cup, but the League Cup as well. Since 2011, only 3 sides have won it, that being Arsenal, Chelsea, and Manchester City. And it's it's a combination of those 4 that always reach the semi-finals, either 3 of them or all 4 of them, as we first saw back in 2019. And I just think to myself, like, is this going to go on for the long term? Because honestly, like, something's got to change in women's football to make it more competitive. Because at the moment, what we're seeing is sides of big men's teams doing well, and that's a problem. Like, I recall when I used to watch women's football in the pre-WSL era, Everton were one of the top teams, Birmingham City too. Like, in fact, between 2008 and 2010, Everton won the Women's League Cup and followed that up with winning the Women's FA Cup back in 2010. Also, in 2012, Birmingham City won their first ever piece of silverware. Now, looking at that, I liked when that happened, because that wasn't happening in the men's game. But fast forward to the present, we're seeing things that's happening in the men's game that's also happening in the women's game. And for me, that can't be right. And it's one of the reasons why I prefer the NWSL, because that's a product in itself. It's not trying to be the MLS as what the WSL is. The league, for me, is trying to be the Premier League. And this season, for the first time, has seen every single club have a Premier League side. And that wasn't the case just 2 years ago. In fact, if you look at the 2022-23 or 21-22 season, at least a quarter of sides in the WSL did not have Premier League sides. And those 3 sides were Birmingham City, Reading, Bristol City, which sadly 2 of them have since been relegated. And even worse for Reading, they've gone down even lower. But sticking with Birmingham City, I'm glad to see that they're coming up this season. But anyway, what was I talking about? Yeah, the women's football problem. Like, in women's football, you want to see things that are happening in a women's game that are not happening in the men's game, as you saw in the pre-WSL era with Everton and in the WSL era with Birmingham City. But yeah, yeah. As for the cup thing, yeah, I believe we really need to talk about it because the way women's football is going, it can't go on like this. Like, yeah, we like to see big sides do well, like the Chelseas, your Arsenals, your Cities, and your Uniteds. But what football fans also like to see is the underdog doing well, and that's something we don't see often enough in the women's game. Like, imagine, say, Brighton going on a cup run to the final, or we see like a championship side, say Birmingham City or London City Lionesses, going on a cup run to a quarter-final or semi-final. Like, that's something that fans like to see. And I know Sunderland are in the Women's FA Cup quarterfinals this season, which is fantastic to see. But stories like that is something that fans need to see more of. Like, yeah, but that's just my 2 cents about the Women's FA Cup. But onto the League Cup now. How would you solve a problem like it? Because for the umpteenth season in a row, it's even two of Chelsea, Arsenal, City, and United are playing the final. I mean, when was the last time neither of these sides played a League Cup final? Now, since the very first season back in 2011, that's never happened. Like, if you look at the men's league cup, for instance, and the FA Cup, how many sides have won that? Like, a number of sides have won that, but with both the Women's FA Cup and the League Cup, it's just Chelsea, Arsenal, City, and you just got to think to yourself, like, for me, it's just like, I don't know, but yeah. Those are just my thoughts on the state of women's football. But enough about me. I'd like to know what you think about this, because for me, it's not a very enjoyable product. Like, I want to see a competitive balance